this is the most successful Apple ad in history. Right? Everyone is now aware that there is a new iPad. And I don't think it's one of those things where no press is bad press. I mean, I think there's a difference between.
I don't know. I disagree on this one.
Apple does not want this kind of press.
Apple serves the creative customer. That's their whole brand essence.
No, they take the creative customer and press them into a device and steal and destroy them.
Welcome to another week of More or Less. Hi, guys. Great to see you, Morans, and Sam, who's far away.
Far away geographically.
Hey, Jess. Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Jess.
It's Saturday. It's coming up. Guys, I'm still 40. Still 40.
For a few more days.
Guys, you know what I just discovered? Did you know that Vuori makes socks? Excellent.
Yes, I love Vuori.
Can we do a more or less ad for Vuori? Because I think we all love it.
We're all
for Vuori.
So good.
Is it almost right? It's Vuori. Vuori?
Vor.
This episode brought to you by Vuori, Sam's favorite hardware startup.
I mean, I think it's more technically soft goods. Yeah, it's soft goods.
Soft hard goods.
How did you get advertised these socks, Sam? How did you?
No, I'm in New York, and I went by a flagship Vuori store next to the Apple store.
In-person retail.
In Soho. That? Yeah, it's great.
Oh, wow.
It's huge and awesome. And it's like the internet, but in reality.
And the socks were in the window?
No. I walked into the store. It's kind of like when you click on a link, it's you walk into the store. And
wow.
Were there protesters outside the store?
I have seen no protesters in New York.
Oh.
Actually, no, I saw one. I saw one protester. But it's a beautiful New York day, so everyone's out having a good time in Washington Square Park. Nice. Although Columbia canceled, I heard from several Barnard people this morning in a meeting that Columbia has canceled the Barnard reunions and the graduation.
Ugh.
So,
that's horrible.
And I ran by Harvard Yard yesterday, which was fun. So I'm doing my East Coast tour.
Okay, what did you learn? I'm still curious about the experience of going into a store, but we can skip that and go to
what is this going into a store?
No, it's so satisfying. The last store I went in, I think, for an extended browsing period was Michael's with one of my kids for arts and crafts.
Nice. Classic.
I bought Mother's Day cards 4 months early.
Michael's is extra dangerous because everything's always on sale. And then you have coupons. Even the people at the register give you the coupons. They want you to know you can save another 30%.
It was a great experience.
You got coupons, and how do you pronounce Vuori, Britt? Vuori. What was your?
When you guys were just talking, I went on mute and I looked it up. It's Vuori.
You guys are terrible French people.
Vuori.
Here's the
rebrand.
I did actually go in 2 stores. I'll tell you the second store experience is internet relevant, which is I also went into a Bonobo store, and it was a very fun.
What? They're still around?
They are, and then they was I'd like to buy a shirt. So I went in, and
do they have inventory these days? I thought they started out having no inventory.
They still have no inventory, and it was hilarious because they were like, "Here, try on this shirt," and I try it on. I'm like, "Okay, I'll buy this shirt," and they're like, "Great, what's your address?" And I'm like, "No, I'm buying this shirt." And they're like, "You can't do that. You have to give us your address, and we'll ship it to you." And I had a fight with the salespeople. They ultimately did give me the shirt. But the way they gave it, I was like, I'm out of town. I want the shirt now. And they gave it to me. But then they were like, okay, we're going to put your shipping address in as this store to get the shirt back. And I'm like, great. So now the Bonobos company thinks that I live at the Bonobo store in Soho. But it was extremely funny. It was like
Walmart bought them, right?
The shirt.
That's so funny.
Walmart bought them. Yeah, or it was at least a majority deal. Yeah.
I love
But Andy's
Walmart.
awesome. I do like Andy, the founder of Bonobos. So.
Yes, I like Andy and his wife, Manuela, who we went to college with, Sam.
I mean, it's a small world.
It's a small world, but wow, those are distinct and yet interesting experiences. What else does Vuori sell?
Shirts and pants.
Vuori has moved. They've moved from athleisure to like trendy clothes now.
No, it's all athleisure.
Well, that athleisure is trendy. I liked it. It was a good experience. The only other weird thing for me, I have to say, from my Vuori experience was, you go to the changing rooms to try something on. It's weird when humans are trying on like skin tight athletic wear, like around you. I found that to be a disconcerting experience because they're not like working out. They're like trying on athletic wear. That was a weird experience.
In the privacy of their own changing area, unless stores have really changed.
It's a large, there's like a communal, like someone was coming out to show it to another woman. It was very confusing, but it felt weirdly intimate. I like the internet better.
Same.
Sam prefers the comfort of a digital screen.
Do you think that when you like order swimsuits online and get them to your house and try on a bunch of them and return most of them, they repackage the same swimsuit and send it to the next person? Like, are all of our genitals touching each other?
I have never once thought about this.
Britt, they have liners designed to protect from this issue.
But
Have you ever not tried out?
Not all of them do, Jess. And it's just making me wonder how these things get repackaged. Underwear doesn't have liners when you buy it online.
I have never returned anything from an online store. I don't know how to do that. So we just have things that don't fit. 2, my sense is when you return it, they mostly send it to Africa. Like, I don't think they resell. I think there's like this is actually a major e-com problem. And I'm very interested in this. It's actually on my list of ideas to work on, which is like the whole thing where people buy 16 sizes and then return. There's like the super returner thing that is like a massive, massive economic hole for e-com. And there's all sorts of theories on like how to deal with it, right? Like even just like from identity questions about, do you need to identify and have some sort of cross website pixel of super returners because they're super inefficient, like to things like that. But this is like this is not a joke e-commerce problem.
But also, I just saw that there's a new company trying to attack this. I forgot what it's called, but they have like effectively they bought an old shopping mall that went out of business, and they're taking like all these e-commerce companies' returns that they don't know what to do with. And they're just selling that everything in the mall is like the 40% off because they just need to get rid of it. And so it's an interesting business model.
It's like the modern outlet store is not, they ship the extra inventory to the outlet. It's what they do is they just have you drop off all the shit, right? And that's where you get your inventory from. So it's like Brit's bathing suits.
They also resell some stuff, but
I don't know. I think this is the whole crazy world. The other thing I'll tell you I learned about today that there'll be a screenshot essay coming on this. This was from an entrepreneur who's a Slow Ventures portfolio company that's crushing it. Very excited for them. But price discrimination in AI is super interesting. And this guy and I are going to host an event in SF soon on this, just a dinner. But
wait, describe what you mean.
Whole topic of price discrimination.
Describe what you mean.
Yes. Well, here's the upshot. So we have massive inequality in America, right? And there's lots of ways to solve it and fix it. But here's the thing. One way to fix it is just price discrimination. So like that baseball hat, Dave, what did that cost? Like $500? Some fancy baseball hat?
Dave does not buy fancy baseball hats.
Well, whatever. The point is like a pair of pants can cost anywhere between $5 and $500. So like these high-end luxury brands, it is a form of price discrimination where like no matter how rich you are, a pant still costs the same percentage of your income. It's just that number fluctuates wildly based on like, what brand you're buying or whatever. And the idea is that as we get more advanced and more targeted, it's not just by geo or by neighborhood or whatever, but you can get really good at price discrimination with AI models and like basically get up to people's marginal purchasing limits in an extremely personalized way. And like, it was just an interesting backdoor to fixing inequality where like you basically just like, instead of thinking of inflation across the boards or like the price of bread, which is regressive, you end up figuring out how to basically get everyone to pay what they can afford for the same items. So like the items just cost massively different amounts of money based on how much money you have.
I think this can work well in some categories, but other categories like people do make purchasing decisions not just on what they're willing to pay for a pair of pants, but what the thing is worth.
Well, not in fashion. I don't know. It's like a latte can cost anywhere from like 5 cents to $15. And like we already have this price discrimination going on, right? Where you charge what the market will bear. And sure, there's the trappings of like one is a nicer cup and like comes with a nice whatever. But it's like we do this in hotels. We do this in price discrimination is everywhere, but it's very rudimentary at this point. And like we're going to get to a world of more and more sophisticated price discrimination up to the marginal value. I mean, you're looking.
Okay.
You have a $1,000 microphone in front of you, Jessica. That is price discrimination to a T.
I'm upset about this as a consumer, and I want to know, what are all the ways that we can hack this on the consumer front? Should I change my IP address to be like somewhere else in the country? Do I need to change my Amazon shipping address and then hire someone to send it to me from there?
So this already happens. This already happens. So I'll give you an example that's kind of a technology one, which is if you go to a lot of e-commerce websites with a MacBook, you get less discounts than if you go with like a different device, right? Because they know you're rich. Yeah. And like that's actually completely logical, right? So the point is like if you want to be a discount shopper, you need to buy like a shitty PC to shop on, right? And like I just think there's going to be this war of like targeting and like bots and intermediaries all trying to hack price curves, right?
This is like, Britt, back to your Britt's handbag theory of technology. So on the day you want to be price bottom of the barrel shopping, you need to get your old PC out.
I'm going to create like a browser extension that can figure out who's hacking me on my price and then figure out how to unhack me. And then I'll charge people for that.
People try that.
I mean, I actually don't know what company this is, Sam, but it sounds like this should be a thing for a lot of categories, and especially like it works much better in digital, obviously. I also think it will be true, Britt, that like as it's true now, I mean, you could get the New York Times for free by going to the library every day and reading the New York Times. I don't know if that's still true, but the interested, motivated person willing to spend time to save money will always be able to do that. But
it's just so much more complicated. I mean, this conversation started with coupons, right? Like it was just like a lot more fun back in the old days. You'd snip the coupons out, you know. Now it's like you need like a new computer. It's crazy.
You sound like my dad, Dave.
What you need is that, and you need like an IP address in the middle of the country, and you need all this shit. And it's going to be like this war of pricing for people. Like, and it is just interesting. Like I, as you know, like generally think AI is a load of hooey in terms of its business impact. But I do think
I was going to ask about that. Yes.
I do think this is a good example where like the number of inputs you can take as a company to try to price discriminate are historically quite finite. It's like, we know your zip code. We kind of know your IP address. We can back out your household income. We know you're on a MacBook. Like you can do like a rudimentary thing, but getting it right and personalized is super hard. The nice part about AI is you're going to end up with this war of people getting way more sophisticated on price discrimination. And on the flip side, then bots trying to figure out how to fight that and like bottom feed across like a bunch of different places, right, to find like the angle. So it's like, you know, the world's going to get super fun in terms of all these games people play to try to figure out how to maximize profits.
And it's also still what the market will bear, Brett. Like you're not going to, like if the AI prices it too high, you're not going to buy it, right? So like there's still market forces at
but I don't
play.
like being squeezed, Jess. When I was growing up, my dad made me buy everything on sale. I couldn't buy anything that was full price.
I love the deal. Every new e-commerce site I shop for, I sign up for the email, I sign up for the text, I put in the $20 code, the 20% off code, and then I unsubscribe. And I do that every time because otherwise I feel like a schmuck.
Me too. I'm like, why not save 10% with a text message?
I always just close it because there's too many words and I feel like I'm going to get tricked.
It's 10 seconds. I become so nimble at the old sign up, copy.
Dave thinks this is so stupid. He was like, why do you care so much to save? Like you're using these hours of your day that are so valuable to sign up for coupon codes.
Well, like, but you know, at the same time,
hacked with I want the deal.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, my great grandfather Filene, who started Filene's Basement, you know, had a lot of amazing sale ideas that people got very excited about out there in Boston, where you've been, Sam. So, you know, it's in my DNA. I
was going to say, it's in your blood, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a different topic for us to discuss this week on the pod. Another fun week. It's actually been I know it's beautiful in New York, Sam. It's beautiful out here in the Bay Area.
Oh, beautiful week in America.
It was so beautiful. I needed to take a walking meeting with our good friend, Haley Barna. Shout out to Haley. Who was visiting from first round. And we were promenading on the promenade near the Ferry Building. and we ran into 3 venture capitalists also promenading.
Oh, it's
I
because
thought
the
that was-
ferry building now has a co-working space that a bunch of VCs work out of who don't have an
does?
office in the city.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I'm a member of it. Shack 8. I was like the 5th member.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sam, have you ever been there?
I actually went several times before it opened and I liked it. The problem is that they opened right before the
Shack
pandemic
15. Shack 15. Close.
hit.
Have you ever
15.
been
You're off
there
by 7.
since after you visited it before it opened?
Like once or twice. It's cool. It's really cool. They have good meetings. It's just it's unfortunately not an irrelevant traffic pattern for me, but it is quite cool space. I highly recommend using it. Co-working. They have a coffee shop. They do events. It's great. It's just the timing of its
Beautifully
opening.
designed.
I do love taking the ferry into the city. It's one of the best kind of unappreciated Bay Area things to do. So maybe I should do that and go there.
You should.
Okay, this is our how to take the ferry and promenade.
We should have a more or less event there.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's kind of out of the way.
I've had a funny tour because I've been doing a bunch of meetings then in 2 buildings. So it's just really funny. You forget how, especially on the East Coast, clustered things are. I did 3 meetings with 3 different firms in 1 building in Boston, in the John Hancock Tower. You're literally just going floor to floor. And then in New York, I was like walking into the Boot building and like ran into like a bunch of our friends, et cetera. So it's unfortunately a very clustered world. And it's kind of hilarious to go between meetings.
What's
and
the Boot building? I don't even know what that building is.
It's the 9 West 57th. It's the building like
Oh.
KKR is. You know, the Boot building. It has like a little.
Got
yeah.
it. Overlooks Central
That
Park.
building's cool. Yeah. I
Sam,
know
did you
people in
see
that
any
building.
remnants of the Met Gala?
Oh.
No. But I wasn't actually. That's not true. I found one. The city bikes have like the spring theme like plastered on them in some places, which I think is from the Met Gala.
Mm.
And there are some Met Gala. I won't name names, but there are some Met Gala attendees still in New York. I can tell you that.
Oh, yes. You can tell. I had to actually power down Instagram today. It was too much Met Gala still.
I agree with that for what it's
Day
worth.
whatever.
I
I'm
really think Instagram's like jumping the shark on this stuff. It's just like I was the same way.
Say more, Dave. What do you mean?
I disagree. It's just overwhelming. And I don't even know what the narrative in Instagram is anymore. Like I just open it up and I'm just like, I don't even know what's going on in here.
Dave, you're such a positive guy. You're now 2 episodes in a row on Instagram negative. Say more. How do you really feel? Like what's going on?
No, I think the world is beginning to wake up. It's just so negative in there anymore. And I think that I'm just hearing this around me in kind of stereo, that people are just frustrated with it, that it's kind of lost the plot, that it just doesn't, it's like not delivering, I think, what people have always gotten from it for some reason. It seems to be like in the last few months.
What did people get from it?
I'm not sure.
Because I mostly got kite surfing and boobs. And it definitely continues to deliver those things.
Probably more of them, actually.
There's some skiing too.
Yeah.
I would argue, Dave, that it's not that Instagram's lost the plot. I think humans have figured out that their brains are being continuously hacked. And like you were saying it this morning or last night, I forgot when we were talking, parents of our generation are waking up to this because it's impacting us. And we're now the ones who have kids under the age of 10. And we're seeing what happened with Gen X's kids. They're at a really rough spot. So we're like, well, fuck that. We're not giving them social media until they're 18. Happening. You know, Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation is, and so.
I actually saw an interview with Jonathan Haidt recently, and he made this point that I thought was really prescient, which is that like anytime that a very large amount of people are deeply frustrated with something and they don't know what to do, it means there's this pent up demand that when things start to shift, they shift very quickly. Mm-hmm. And I kind of think that like this is happening right now. And I think that parents worldwide are extremely frustrated with this and they don't know what to do. And so I think that things are on the precipice of shifting like very quickly on this. And I guess that's what I'm pointing to is I think there's just a lot of chatter. People are frustrated. They don't know what to do. And so there's a lot of demand to like do something. And
I'm not. So first of all, can we just point out is Jonathan Haidt's Instagram? His last name.
Haidt. Yeah.
Okay. Different
Okay,
spelling.
keep going. Move to the next point.
Here's my thing. I just think the problem with all this stuff is fundamentally a bunch of images and videos get boring. Like it doesn't matter what the format is. It's like at a certain point you've seen enough of them and they all look the same. And this is kind of my theory, like thing with AI as well, is I just think it's boring. And like I just think candidly, I think what's happening is that most of us are just getting bored of pictures of the same stuff. And
yeah, maybe that's it.
That's kind of the fundamental issue is I'm bored of all the same stuff. I'm kind of bored of the faces of my friends. Like I'm just bored of it all, right? And I think that's kind of why you end up with like fashion or turnover is like what's new.
I think I think that is a huge dynamic. And then I think what you were just talking about, Britt and Dave, this more awareness of what it's doing to your brain. Like there's an addictive quality to social media, no question. And as you grow up and you kind of realize how you feel looking at it for a long time versus doing other things, and you combine those two things, I think that is a moment. I agree, Dave. I think it is a moment that like where things could kind of behaviors could change quickly. They could also not.
I think this thing is boiling, and I do think it's something to do with parents in our generation. Like, I think if you go around to most people in our generation, look, we all grew up with this stuff. Like, I fell in love with AIM. I worked at Facebook. Like, I worked on all these things. I've loved the internet my whole career. But like, if you ask any millennial, like I'm like one of the oldest millennials. If you ask any millennial younger than me that has children, are you going to allow your kids on social media? You get an immediate visceral reaction. Hard no, absolutely not. Like,
but then they do. I mean, they absolutely do.
Social
media.
They'll
be like, well, they're on Snap, but I monitor their Instagram or something like that, right? I mean,
most people I hear, they're like hard no, especially on Snap.
Okay, I was just using examples.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with everything you're saying, and I think both points, like the boredom, the fatigue of the format, and all of that, is a factor as well. And it's not because sometimes the like, oh, I'll never let my kids do this angle is sort of like easily dismissed and things don't change. But I think things are going to shift in interesting ways. But Sam, your point is only shift when there's something that's more addicting than these things. Is that what you're
to me, this is just like, what's the higher grade heroin? Like, that's what will shift to the new thing for like the mass audience. You might not like it, but like,
I don't want that. I don't want that heroin. I just want silence.
We're social creatures. We're like addicted to each other's faces by design, right? Like, and like, I just think that's like what happened. Now, I agree with the kid point. Like, you think you're just going to shut off humans? I mean, I don't know. I'm walking around Manhattan, and it's like so nice to be around three-dimensional real humans, even though they're strangers, and just see other humans. Like, that's kind of like...
We should headline this episode. Sam needs to leave the pool house more often. He's discovered people.
Humans.
It's great. You're like walking on the street, there's all these people, and they're doing interesting things, and they're not even that... But it's like, I just wonder, it's like... It's great. New York's great, especially on a nice day.
I think there's this other thing going on. Like, I've had a lot of people ask me recently, like, how to think about their media diet, or how do I interact with this in a healthy way? And I think that's like this other question people are asking, right? So maybe the framing of that, like, this is just going to dramatically change and all of a sudden be gone, is like grossly overgeneralized. And the right way to think about what's actually going on is people are asking this question about like healthy diet. One of the examples of this is like, you get people asking like, God, man, everything's so negative. There's so much bad things happening in the world. And to Sam, maybe your point, people are just sad, or they're bored and over this kind of like negativity loop of just like, there's another dramatic crisis, there's another terrible war, there's like something bad going on elsewhere in the world. And then, you actually like put your phone down and you look around you, and actually like life is all right. Like, you're eating food, you're like hanging out with your friends, like your local life is fine. And I think like one of the things the internet, in particular social media, has done is taken a lot of global content and like streamed it into people's local lives in a way that has it's like their brain is in a different geographic location than their body. And so there's this like disconnect between the fear that I have about the world. People talk about this a lot. The world's so bad. And it's like, really? Like, is your local world bad? There's like this different... I think people are tiring of this gap and starting to become aware of it.
So I think Dave, I think that's right. And I think that the reality is like, unfortunately, as an American consumer, the war in Ukraine or what's going on in Gaza, whatever, it's all just media to 99%. Even like global climate crisis, it's just consumable media people consume and then they like get burned out on. And the problem is, I think what gives a lot of is you have all these things and you have absolutely zero agency over it or impact on it, which leaves you being like, ugh, like I burned through this content and now I'm done. Interestingly, to your thing about what comes next, I actually think purely forget the content, but purely from a media standpoint, partially what comes next is like the kids on college campuses camping in the yard, right? Because they're like, oh, like that is a meme and that's like a cultural thing and like a looking for connectivity as much as it is anything else, I think, in terms of what's going on, right? And so I do think some of these behaviors in the real world and trying to create connection, again, it could be any content. It's not about the content. It's about people looking for like connection and not being burned out on the stuff as purely content.
Well, I think that, Dave, you raised an important point, which ties to what I also want to talk about, which is this new Apple ad. But
oh, God.
I think this Apple ad thing is direct in the center of this, but go ahead, Jeff.
Right. So, but basically you're thinking about not only is the problem with digital media and how we consume it, that it's sort of these big disconnected things from our present reality, but the mechanism of interacting and getting attention is being outraged.
Yeah.
You don't get any attention in these things without being outraged. Look at this thing, how stupid it is. Look at this thing and how wholeheartedly I agree and reinforce this thing. And it is a very polarizing and challenging way to have any sense of discourse. And I know that's sort of like obvious, but that then translates to, you can either just be for or against, outraged or not outraged.
Well, it's like so interesting. It's so interesting to me, like this Apple ad thing, right?
Yeah, let's describe it for people if they don't see it.
Yeah, so Apple launched the new iPad yesterday, which looks awesome. I'm ordering one. Like it's like a fantastic upgrade over the prior iPad. However, they released, a classic Apple kind of fun, goofy ad about it, right? And the ad shows a giant like press. It's like it's a press
like
that's
a printing press. Looks like.
Yeah, that's like squishing like a piano and record players and paint and all these things that when it's done squishing all these things, it then lifts up and it shows an iPad. And interestingly, I've had this experience twice that I can point to in the last 6 months. One of them was watching this. Like I watched this with my 9-year-old son last night, and we both thought it was funny. And I was just like, oh, that's cute. That's cool. I didn't think anything of it. And then this morning, Jess, you send that text that, oh my God, look what how the internet's reacting to this. And I go and I read the narrative and I'm like, I'd never even thought of this narrative, right? Like it never occurred to me until now. And then you sort of see the entire thing playing out and you're like, whoa, like this is so negative. It's like, so like the narrative is off in this other universe.
The narrative, right? I think I'm going to they're interested in other people's point of view. Instantly, the criticism of this ad is that, oh, how ironic. Apple doesn't realize it, but they're celebrating squishing and sucking the vibrant color out of all culture, which whether or not you think they're doing the whole point of the ad, like, how ironic, because this is the criticism against technology.
It's completely
like
hilarious.
So there's that point. And then there was the second strain, which I'm often tickled by. However many years later, anything Apple does has to be met with the reaction, Steve would be rolling over in his grave. And I feel like people just still use that if it seems anti-jobs. But
he would.
I don't know.
I was in...
Dave, you had your piece. We're going to Brett and then Sam.
I worked in the creative part of Apple, like marketing, PR. Like I know that group very well. There are the highest caliber ad agencies and creatives in the world that work on Apple. They've done fantastic work up until today. I don't know. I don't know how this got approved. Like, no one followed this narrative that AI is killing creative jobs? It's insane to me that no one would think maybe this could be seen in a different way. And then, I feel bad because Tim put it out there on social media personally. So now he's getting personally attacked.
Don't feel bad. I mean, I don't think the company deserves criticism, he deserves criticism.
Sure. I think Apple is probably a shit show right now of people figuring out, oh God, what do we need to do? I would not be surprised if there's a public apology today and obviously pull this ad. It's crazy.
So a few things.
Okay,
A few
Sam,
things I'll jump in
you
on.
get your microphone.
One, I'm in the camp of this is fucking hilarious. And like, I cannot believe they screwed this up because it's just, but two, I think you recognize this is the most successful Apple ad in history. Right? Everyone is now aware that there is a new iPad. And like, I don't think it's one of those things where like no press is bad press. I mean, like, I think there's a difference between.
I don't know. I disagree on this one.
Apple does not want this kind of press.
Apple like serves the creative customer. Like that's their whole brand essence.
No, they take the creative customer and press them into a device and steal and like destroy them. Like it's just too funny. You contrast this with like the classic 1984 ad where Apple's like breaking the Borg, and it's like it's just hilarious. And to me, the biggest thing is I'm not like outraged by it. It doesn't personally affront me, but it is extremely funny. And I think to your point, it kind of speaks to how incredibly out of touch the leadership or people doing these things must be to like miss this because it's like glaring, right?
I mean, Dave, I think you could say that the reaction is overboard. I think you could also say that Apple just missed this. Apple is the most conservative company on the planet when it comes to this stuff. This was definitely not their intention. And I kind of share the like head scratchiness of how they could miss the symbolism of technology destroying all else.
I'm much more interested in the meta point that we were talking about here, which is what is going on in social media. When I opened this up this morning, I can't even follow the conversation because it's so far afield into all these different topics that
it's about the people sharing it want to tell you something about themselves, right? So you can go through and you can see what Paul Graham did. Oh, and Paul Graham wants us all to think he's holding the torch of Steve Jobs' past or whatever. And but that I think that's interesting and it crystallizes that, but I think we all also always knew that. And I don't think I'm not going to make you can let Apple off the hook, Dave, on this podcast, but I really think that is a takeaway here that like we can't let them off the hook. And like, you know, this is a company that is going to be at some point facing leadership transitions and all these things. And it just really makes me wonder.
Well,
like,
I just also think the thing to keep in mind is like,
what the strategy is.
There's a history here. First of all, like the thing that's most like this that happened a while ago is remember Mark's picture in front of the Eiffel Tower in the metaverse that was like so out of touch with reality, right? Where he's like selfie in front of the Eiffel Tower and he looked ridiculous.
Wait, I don't even know what happened.
Now I understand.
You understand what I'm saying? And then he redid it in reality in front of the Eiffel Tower, which is really funny, right? And I think he's like recaptured that narrative in a hilarious way.
I thought you were going to bring up the chair. I thought you were going to bring up the chair ad.
The chair commercial.
We don't have to talk about that.
We don't have to go there, but that was very funny. Look, I think the thing to keep in mind is, okay, unroll before photos. Before photos, the way people express their identity on the internet was they'd be like, my favorite movie quotes and book quotes, and this is my favorite show. And we found connectivity through media in terms of expressing who we are in common touchstones, right? And like cameras come out, and then all of a sudden the way you expressed yourself moved from being like, hey, I like Top Gun. Oh, you like Top Gun too? Now it became like, here's my photo. And you got selfie memes and people trying to parrot each other to express who they are on terms and with content that other people can understand. Now, the problem is I actually think we have largely burned our way out of photos. Like people still like faces. People are social. They're addicted to faces. So like, but like you can only take so many selfies and share so many to express yourself. Like I feel like we've almost like finished that arc. And so now we're into a new type of memeing arc where again, we're looking for cultural touchstones that we can react to express who we are in simple terms that other people understand. That's why Taylor Swift matters. That's why the Super Bowl matters. That's candidly why this Apple commercial matters.
What do you think of my theory? Is this going to bring hobbies back?
I think that they already are on their way back. Okay. And I actually think that's what is happening here with this, right? That like, I do think that the topic we started this whole conversation around, which is that there's like this mass global awakening about social media and smartphones, and people are looking to, you know, in real life, offline hobbies, and they're looking to, I mean, like records were one of the things that were crushed in this ad, right? Like people all around me are talking about records all of the time, right? Like I think that all of this stuff is interrelated, I guess is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, my creative hobbies include painting, playing musical instruments, and listening to records. Everything in the Apple ad. it's like why they
Do you listen to records, Britt? I didn't know that about
They
you.
crushed all of Brit's dreams.
they crushed my dreams in this ad. That's what I'm saying.
But they gave you an iPad.
Here's the brilliant PR move. Ready? They go and find like the top creatives in all the categories that they smashed in the ad.
And then they smashed them. They put them in the press and they just smashed the creatives.
And they remake a new ad. And all the creatives are like playing records in real life, but with their iPad, and they're painting based on like a composition they saw from their iPad. Like, it's
that
like
was all the iTunes marketing with the headphones
collaboration, not one versus the other. Come on, Apple, you can do it.
Again, can we just enjoy this as comedy? I think the reality is like the world is just in this extremely like comedic genre right now, is my sense. Like, I think that's actually a big thing. Like, comedy's ripping. People love comedy.
Yeah, can we talk about the roast of Tom Brady?
Tom Brady roast
and
was
like
epic.
and how good Nikki Glaser was. It's like truly unbelievable how good she was.
So for those who haven't seen it, we wrote a whole evening newsletter on this, but Netflix aired the live roast of Tom Brady as part of their experiment. I mean, they're experimenting a lot with live and some sports stuff. So, Dave, what did you think was so great about it?
Number one, I'm just so happy to hear comedians returning to like real comedy. No holds barred, just like, no filter, like absolutely no censorship, just kind of real comedy. And it was so funny. And, kudos to Tom Brady
for enjoying it,
taking that. It was
and
rough.
Laughing. And I mean, it's just the world needs more of this, and less of the kind of.
I will say one of the flaws, and this is a little pop culture corner. So Kim Kardashian gives a roast during it. It's not great. It's mediocre. She ended up getting booed live. And this is supposed to be a live Netflix special. But guess what? The boos were edited out. Like, so you didn't hear the real boos. That. I know.
No.
You should
Netflix.
have to hear the boos, right? Yeah. I think to me, Kim has good lawyers.
Well, yeah. I think that Kim getting booed and us being meh on the Met is all kind of related. It's just like nobody cares about these narratives anymore. It's just like boring.
I am definitely over them. I think also if people had more to do, this would be less of an issue. People need other things that they're excited about. Again, I discovered TikTok recently and it's funny, but like for 10 minutes, I just want to go on record. I've been using TikTok for years. So.
Here's an interesting question. If the pandemic hadn't happened, would we have a longer, would we be less far into the bored burnout mode of all content? Like, do you think we'd be like, there'd still be 5 years left?
But that's because all it did is accelerate everything that was already happening.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thing.
I think there's like a finite number of hours you can look at faces of other humans, and we used a lot of those hours during the pandemic, so we just burned out a little bit faster. But it was all going to happen anyway. Like,
we picked up hobbies, right? And we picked up
hobbies and clubs. This is like all the social clubs are coming back, guys. I know Sam hasn't been to Shack 15 in years.
I think the thing to keep in mind though is like it's just a cost equation. Like it's just so cheap. Like the internet is such a cheap. Like it's like. I was thinking about meetings, and I have to get in a car in a second and go visit Cortina in Brooklyn, and like it's gonna take fucking forever to get there, right? And I'm very excited to see Cortina, but the friction of that or going to physical meetings, I've done a lot of them in person this week, is so high compared to social media or just Zoom. And candidly, outside of places like New York, right, which is wired for this, it's like impossibly high if you get on airplanes. And so I think there's just, again, when we talked about bargain basement shopping, there's a cost differential that's very hard to overcome. And people will accept way shittier stuff for the cost being so much lower online versus the real world. And with that, I do have to get to
that point, Sam. I thought it was interesting that 1.5 million people showed up to Madonna's free concert in Brazil this week. Right?
Yeah.
Like 1.5 million people showed up?
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't see this on social?
They must be really bored.
Given the choice between like sitting on your phone and looking at social media and going to a free concert, 1.5 million people chose the free concert and to be near other humans. Which is
with that, I have to go spend 45 minutes going to see Cortina. Love you all.
Hi, Cortina.
Better be a good meeting.
Sam's hating traffic is like it's just like funny how much he hates it. Okay, so so we think this goes where?
Apple or social media?
No, our general fatigue with social media?
I just think it's accelerating. I think it's accelerating personally.
Yeah, but where does it end?
I would guess more people are going to adopt a social media diet or some sort of thing where they are truly like limiting themselves. I wouldn't be surprised if, speaking of Apple, they like further improve screen time features to
It's
help
like
you with your
actually
mental
the
health.
only feature request, the only thing I want from Apple is to like invest in screen time, like take some of that money they're giving back to shareholders and buybacks and invest $1 billion in improving screen time. Like it's to me, it's like, that's the number one thing that they need to do. Like give us better tools.
Don't they have some of these nudges I mean, again,
They haven't been improved in over 5 years.
got it.
Yeah. It's been the same product for maybe even longer, 7 years.
And I think whether it's Instagram or there's maybe another social network that pops up or something that's a little bit more intentional for people's mental health, I think people want to get to the end of a feed and be done and not like the endless scrolling. And obviously,
Yeah.
like with an advertising business model, you want people in the scrolling, but that's just not, I don't know that that's the future. And so I wonder, how do we get to a world where it really is, this is the top 50 things curated for you today, and now you're done? Because that's something I would pay for. Like that's something I think a lot of people would pay for, even who aren't in positions like us, who are like top of Silicon Valley, whatever. Like I think that all people want to just see it, feel like they're in the know. They saw like the latest things their friends did or what's going on in the news, and now they can move on. And that to me is like more worthy of like a $5 latte I'm spending on every day at Starbucks, you know? So I wonder what the opportunity is there.
They're never going to do that, these companies. I mean, again, it's just not their
It's
model.
counter to their models. Yeah.
Well, and that's why I said maybe not them, but maybe another company will figure it out, you know, and get some traction. To Dave's point, like I think when people want to switch, they will switch hard if it's something that's really good and works.
I just think the latent demand is enormous.
Totally. And I think also we have to help people. The companies and the products have to change, but I think we also have to, if you're talking about kids and like how you're training your kids to interact with these things, like this idea, I mean, I watch my kids have like really, really discrete screen time for specific things. And I'm like, maybe I should have really discrete screen time. So like, I'm into the Met Gala. Like I was like looking forward to at the end of the day going through and like looking at all the outfits. And, you know, I had friends who were there who were creating text threads all day long, and I muted the threads. I said, I'm going to check into all the thread. Like I'm going to read every single one of these messages, but I'm going to do it, you know, from 7:30 to 8. And I'm actually kind of annoyed that when I still open these apps, that's kind of like all I get. But the model for the creators and the people and the platforms itself are just to like keep feeding the beast. But it doesn't mean it has to be our model, right?
Right. Well, actually, I use the Google app a lot. I don't know if you guys use this.
I do.
I find it really does curate news way better than anything else for me. And there's an end. Like you can scroll through a couple pages of like keep scrolling, you know, buttons, and then there's an end. And that's just like it. And I love it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's all I'm going to do today then. Thank you. And I'm done. And I just, you know, wish I had more of that in other types of applications like this.
Yeah.
I've been using this amazing app called Opal, which is a screen time app for adults that I actually find to be like a very good. I met the founder a long time ago. I'm not an investor, but they do a really lovely job, and it's actually dramatically reduced my personal screen time, and it's one of the first products to do that. So, you know, it's one recommendation I have on this front.
Yeah, there are solutions. Awesome. Well, I have another last question for you guys, which is in the hardware space. By the way, thank you for the mill. So listeners of this pod will know my surprise that I was not already a customer of this gadget that creates soil out of your garbage. And the Morins gave me one for my birthday. So
enjoy.
We want your full review in 2 weeks when it arrives.
I'm sure you will get it. You'll get Sam's too, no doubt. But I wanted to take this time to plug, which Dave, I think I saw on the socials that you're also an 8 Sleep fan.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. You're opening a can of worms, Jess.
Okay. So
here we go.
Listeners, many of your listeners of the pod are 8 Sleep is a mattress pad that, in addition to helping regulate temperature to improve sleep, also does a variety of other sleep tracking the Lessons have been fans of the 8 Sleep for quite some time. And do they have a new product announcement today, Dave? Is that why everyone's...
Yeah, they released Sleep Pod 4. So we've been, big customers, big fans of Matteo and the team over there since the beginning. Just the very best product in sleep, no question.
The feature I'm most excited about in the Pod 4 is that it can do automatic snoring mitigation powered by autopilot. And it is clinically proven to reduce snoring by up to 45%, which is a game changer for me and Dave's marriage. So thank you, 8 Sleep, for improving our marriage.
Yeah, you can just whack your snoring spouse. That also works.
I do that a lot, but I feel bad every time.
Here's the other thing. Look, these things are expensive. I want to acknowledge that. But the way I think you have to think about it is amortizing it over, at minimum, call it 5 years of sleep, right? So if you think about the cost per night of better sleep, then this product is easier to stomach at the prices that they charge for it. Number one. Number two, I had dinner on Friday night with Brian Johnson, who's, working on the Blueprint project and is kind of at the forefront of longevity research. And, he's got a lot of really interesting things to say about longevity and what, all these different things that you should be doing. But one of the first things they did in that project to figure out what to focus on was they looked at all of the science in the world, stack ranked it by power law, like what has the biggest effect on longevity, and then started going down the list. And number one is sleep. And so I think that, improving your sleep is the best investment anybody can make. And so, I guess that's why I'm like so passionate about the 8 Sleep and everything that it does.
Yep. There are a lot of ways to improve sleep as well, but I'll be interested. I don't think I need the Pod 4. Maybe I don't know.
Sam doesn't snore?
Sometimes, but not like the kick is working just fine. So, and that's what happens when you leave the pod.
Jess, it has modes for reading and back pain relief. So maybe
I'm not 80, Brett. No, I do have back pain.
The more important thing is it has like a 50% improvement, it looks like, in thermal performance, which is a huge deal. The main technology and engineering problem of these products has been how to create the thermal circuit with your body that would actually lower your core temperature to produce larger amounts of deep sleep. And as each product, before 8 Sleep, there was a company which Chili Pad, which a lot of us were really passionate about. And they did a lot of engineering to try to improve the thermal performance and create better. So at the end of the day, what these products do is they use a process that is actually from cooling microchips to cool water and then put it into a microchannel inside of a very thin layer underneath you. And that layer has to create a energy circuit with your body. It has to take the heat that your body is generating and move it away from you and then put more cold water in. And to create a really good version of that circuit has been a long-standing engineering problem that a lot of these guys have been working on for a long time. And I think actually the Pod 3 was like a pretty big breakthrough in this, but going this much farther forward, I think this will actually be a breakthrough product, is my sense, because it will deliver the thermal performance that almost everybody would be looking for a product like this.
Dave, as you're talking, I'm thinking this is going to cool the H100s. This is the technology that is being developed for sleep is going to be the key to unlocking energy usage in training large language models.
They're taking it from that tech. That's where the idea is that.
Oh, data center cooling.
Yeah, it comes from this.
This is why I dream of it. I'm just looking at the price. $4,000 for the Pod 4 Ultra.
Yeah, it's expensive.
But do they have a firm? Because then you could pay over time.
You don't have to get the Ultra. The Ultra has this new, there's an entirely new addition to the product, which is there's a thing that goes under the mattress, which actually will make the mattress go up, and you can watch TV or read, or it will change your body position while you're sleeping. Like, this is an entirely new thing. It's like a robotic.
Oh, that's the base.
Yeah, and I believe the pod itself is around $2,000 or $2,500.
Yeah, that is correct.
Which is the traditional product that they make. So those are the additional cost is this new robotic product, which you don't have to get. In fact, I can't speak to that because I've never experienced it. Whereas my glowing review is about the actual pod product itself, the heating and cooling aspect.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad we got some good, expensive hardware plugs in, because it would not be a more or less without. But a big fan of the product. Big fan. Very easy to use. Yeah. Well, Britt, before we wrap, any PCC?
Yeah, I mean, the main PCC this week, which maybe you saw given all the Met Gala coverage, was that, Katy Perry wasn't there, but then AI'd herself into being there with a beautiful floral gown. And a lot of people believed it and started putting her in all the commentary.
Oh, that's so smart.
The best dressed at the Met Gala.
That's so smart. Oh, Katy Perry, so much respect.
It was like this macro thing about deep fakes are here and this is already happening, in mass consumer culture, things like the Met Gala. And so, she had to basically be like, guys, this is AI. Like I wasn't there. And I think it's, just points to what we know is coming, which is just more of the being fooled, what's real and what's not real. So check it out.
I think it's going to accelerate what Sam is talking about, right? We're just going to value and consume like photos in very different ways, right? Like you'll assume, you see a very beautiful or handsome person like decades ago, you'd be like, oh my God, they're incredibly good looking or whatever. And now you see them look great in a photo and you assume they took 7 and had the right lighting. Yep. And now, we're going to see it and we'll be like, I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's not, but I don't really care because I'm,
yeah. Or like Instagram and social media, as we know, we'll need to like figure out how to watermark this stuff, which I know a lot of startups are actually.
It's never going to happen.
It is going to happen.
They're all trying. OpenAI announced something this week on that front.
Won't matter. Because like what just happened here, like Katy Perry put that out, it got picked up by everybody and,
because it wasn't watermarked.
But like Instagram.
The volume's too high. It's never going to happen.
I don't know.
Yeah. I just cannot see water. I mean, the digital universe is defined, like it is way too vast to think that like watermarking. And then you have these like blockchain people. It's like,
yeah,
we're not gonna. But anyway.
On the other hand, in AI land, I saw this. This is just like a quick plug for some science. This DeepMind, Google DeepMind thing that they released today for AlphaFold 3 is like an enormously awesome, just crazy breakthrough that they could predict the interactions. How did they word it? It was predicting the structure and interactions of all of life's molecules. Like, this is just amazing. I think this is the hope for AI. Outside of large language models and all the hype around that stuff, like the hope for AI in these like deep tech zones where we might be able to, here it says, predict the structure of proteins, DNA, RNA, ligands, and more, and how they interact. And, just absolutely transforming how we understand biology and drug discovery, like reducing suffering. Like, this is cool. So I'm psyched about that. That's my pop culture of the week.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just how cool. And they're spinning it off, right?
Looks like it.
In some way.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of new drugs discovered soon. Hopefully a lot of illnesses cured. So
go science. I don't know enough about it, but it's cool. Okay, friends. Well, it's been another great week. I will say I won't announce them yet, but we have 2 really cool guests scheduled for the podcast. One, we have the date already. One, we're working on the date. So it will be a spicy summer. Some guests who adamantly disagree.
I love it. Can't wait.
With some of the folks.
Those are our favorite guests
on this pod. So we look forward to it. Thanks for spending another hour with us. Thanks to our back channel for the ideas, feedback.
Yeah, appreciate all the comments and the Twitter. And shout out to Chris Anderson, former editor of Wired and many other amazing projects. He's, I guess, a listener. So appreciate that. And it's great to see people.
Thank you, Chris. We should have Chris on the pod. So great. Well, another week. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this show, please leave us a virtual high five by rating it and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Find more information about each episode in the show notes and follow us on social media by searching for @MoreOrLess, @DaveMorin, @Lesson, @JLesson, and as for me, I'm @Brit. See you guys next time.